Hey everybody, this is the Enlightenment Evolution Hour with your host Rob Gauthier. We are going to have an amazing show today. Very special guest, JP Sears is here with us. But before we jump in, I just have a couple of real quick announcements to go through. First of all, the Enlightenment Evolution Hour is a part of the Enlightenment Evolution Network, which is going to be producing a lot of new shows in the 2017 year. We've got a lot of people getting ready to start their own shows through the network. Myself and Kalina have been working tirelessly on that with a lot of great effort for a lot of spiritual, metaphysical, new age content, and all other kinds of content on here. We want to share all the journeys that can be had in life, so all of you who resonate and experience with those certain parts of the path can join us also. Our other announcement is right around the corner. In just a little over a week, we have the channel panel, and this is going to be October 8th and 9th. It is a 2-day event with 14 channelers. We've got some of the most amazing channelers around, and that is going to be on October 8th for day one, and it's going to start at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's 11 a.m. Pacific Time. And the first day we're going to have real quick, I'm pulling up the list in order so that you guys can hear that. We're going to have Anita Melchizedek. We're going to have John Callie from the Tuning In documentary, myself as the third channeler, Serge Grandabo, who's been channeling over 30 years, amazing channeler, Sean Swanson, great friend of ours, Susie Byler. We have Brad Johnson, and that is going to be on day one. So 7 channelers, 7 hours worth of channeling. We're going to have at least an 8-hour day. In between breaks, we will have Kalina Angell sharing her channeling from all sorts of different energies through her guides in the Arcturian 103. So that's going to be amazing too. Myself and Kalina will be doing the hosting for that event on both days. Day 2, October 9th, starting at the same exact time, 2 p.m. Eastern. That's 11 a.m. Pacific time. We will have up first Krista Reza, then Michaela Sheldon, and then we're going to have Kelly Coffey from Kelly and the Raw, amazing psychic intuitive. Bob Hickman, Psychic Bob, he'll be here joining us. Courtney, and I want to say Amundsen, but I don't want to mispronounce it, but I believe it's Amundsen. She is the world's youngest professional channeler. She is amazing. Then we've got Jim Charles from Human Colonies, which is a great friend of mine. Me and him have done many events together. You guys have seen those. Also, Daniel Scranton, who's done many events with us. So that'll be the 14 channelers who are involved in this event. It's going to be an amazing event. You can go to Facebook and type in the channel panel and then type in Emerging Beyond the Unknown. That's this year's channel panel. It'll come up to an events page, or go to the brand new website, which is amazing. Kalina's put a lot of time and effort into designing it, and it looks beautiful, and that is thechannelpanel.com. The and then channel, CHANNEL, and then the word panel, PANEL.com. Go there. You can get tickets, registration. You can look at all the channelers we've got this year, and we're also adding all of the channelers that we've had for the last 3 years for the channel panel event. It is going to be, like I said, amazing is a word I use a lot, but it's not underestimated when it comes to this. So join us, guys. $55 will get you both days, $35 for day 1 or day 2. When you go there, all the information's there. And if you purchase both days, you will get a copy of the recording from the event also. If you only choose one day, then you can pay the difference between that and a 2-day pass to get the recording for both days on that also. So announcements are done and aside, and I want to invite our guest, JP Sears, who is an amazing person. He is a spiritual comedian, he's a spiritual person, and he's just an amazing person who's not just hilarious and funny, who all of us who've ever watched or listened to any of his videos on YouTube or any of the material there have laughed ourselves into comas or into hysteria, one or the other. It's very beautiful to have you on, JP. Thank you for coming in today.
Oh, thank you, brother. I'm very happy to be here with you, Rob. And also thank you for not sharing with everybody the bad stuff about me. You shared some really good sounding stuff. I'm like, yeah, I'll take that. I like that warped sense of who JP is. But yeah, so good to be here with you, brother.
Well, it's great to have you here, and I'm always amazed by you. Your energy is always live, exciting, that energy that really motivates people to have a good experience for that, even if nothing more than just a couple minutes they're watching you. I've had a very long day. I had to go to court earlier today, but I knew tonight I would have a good end of the day to tie it all up perfectly. So I'm glad you're here. Can you let everybody know who might be listening, who might not have had the opportunity to see your videos or get to know who you are? Can you just give us a little bit from your perspective of who you are?
Yeah, who I am, I have no idea, but I'm sure as hell searching for him. But describing who I am in the sense of like a little bit about what I do, a few things I do. I've had an emotional healing coaching practice that I've been working with people for the past 14 or 15 years. And I love working directly into the realm of the human heart and soul. I make YouTube videos, and they're distributed on YouTube, Facebook, and some of those that have become, I guess, getting more wider viewership are my ultra spiritual comedy videos, and I've also got sincere life advice perspective videos. And I'm very fortunate where I get to be invited to go speak and perform at various conferences, places. And in the past, I've done a lot of leading of retreats, teaching workshops and classes on the emotional healing, self-growth, personal empowerment themes, which is really the watered down way of saying spiritual stuff. So yeah, and I've got red hair, blue eyes, and I love my dog.
Well, I think that wraps it up beautifully.
End of discussion. It's been nice talking to you, Rob. We covered everything.
Have a great day. We'll see you. We'll see you next time.
For sure.
Well, what's beautiful too, I noticed by looking on your Facebook page, you have over 1 million followers, and in some aspects,
very blessed. Yeah.
Absolutely. Some aspects of the spiritual community, the self-help teaching community, that's pretty huge. So what do you think it is about you that just draws people in? I know each person has their own individual perspective on that, but what do you see that's the greatest gift that you give to others?
Well, and that's a huge question. I have no idea, but it's not going to stop me from acting like I have an opinion about it. And I feel so blessed, and there's been so much grace for there to be over 1 million people who connect in with me, following on Facebook, amongst other things. And so that's a great honor. So if I act delusional enough to pretend like I can figure all that out, I think, I think as I think about it, people find me relatable, and therefore that they can connect with me. And that's to say the obvious. But why is that the case? I would dare say I tend to communicate, at least in some of my work, through what I think is a universal language, humor. I think, English is almost a universal language. A lot of European countries speak it. It's the most widely spoken language with secondary languages. But I think humor is actually a language that's more pervasive and maybe more at the heart of humanity than even English. I think humor is something we can all relate to, no matter what culture we're in. We all laugh. And honestly, we all like to laugh. And we probably all need to laugh more. So me sharing my perspective through humor, I think, is something that has allowed a lot of people to connect with me, want to connect with me, and to be able and willing to understand what the hell it is I'm saying. I've been doing comedy videos for almost 2 years now. We'll call it 2 years. But I've been doing other videos and, the sincere professional work that I do for, the 13 years before that. So, why has my following really exponentially exploded in the past 2 years? I think it's the language of humor. I didn't shift my beliefs. I mean, I hope they continue to evolve and I'm not just stuck in 15-year ago mindset. But no, I didn't change my beliefs. I didn't change my message. I added a dimension of how I communicate my message. And I think that has been the language of relatability that is humor.
Absolutely. It's perfect to know that that part of everybody that wants to get that feeling of just lightening up, releasing, because that is the number one killer of expansion and growth, is dealing with the day-to-day junk and being able to let some of that go. Laughter is a beautiful way to do that. Now, you said that you've been teaching for 13 years, and then all of a sudden, after you start doing the comedy, it grows out quite a bit. By quite a bit, are we talking about 10 times the amount of people that you used to deal with, or that used to view the videos, or maybe even more than that?
Yeah, I think more than that. So if I were to like actually use some numbers from, call it, Facebook or YouTube, my Facebook fans, followers, I think I was around 1,000 or 2,000 a couple years ago, and now it's over 1 million. So I don't know what the math is on that. I'm not smart enough to do it. And then when I can look at the same kind of thing, my YouTube subscribership, the first year and a half of my channel, before I even did the first comedy video, it was great. I had like 2,000 YouTube subscribers, and I'm so proud of that. And then when I start doing comedy videos, that's now, I don't know, over 300,000. So and I don't like to get hung up on numbers, though part of my ego gets gratified about stuff like that. Yet it is interesting to see that measurability of like, wow, there's some objectification here of kind of like, when we look at the only variable that changed is me more openly expressing my sense of humor. So it's pretty interesting to see how the numbers do some talking. It's by no means the whole picture, but it's like, one dimension of the very multi-dimensional deal of me relating to the world and voicing my voice.
That's beautifully said. And something I've noticed for me, the moments where all the work that I do ends up opening up into new experiences, new groups of people, is usually when in my own personal life, some of the resistance that I deal with on that day-to-day journey opens up also. Did you find any correlation to that with your life, or do you think it just is as simple as shifting that relative communication that you were sharing?
No, I love your perspective. For me, your perspective is very deep. To me, what it suggests and what resonates as true for me is me shifting the comedy was a symptom of something that happened inside of me. And what was that something that happened? In a very general sense, I would say that my inner shift was I gave myself more permission to be me. I stopped avoiding myself out of the fear of disapproval, or at least to a degree. I stopped avoiding being me out of the fear of disapproval of other people, because as it relates to the literal expression of my work, I had made up a story that says me expressing my sense of humor on camera, on video, will be bad for business. So that's the story I made up, which I think is really symptomatic of my inner child saying, I'm afraid people won't want to work with me. I'm afraid they won't value me. I'm afraid they won't see me as a worthy person. So let me conceal, constrict, and strangulate this little child inside of me who likes to laugh. And sometimes when he laughs and amuses himself, it makes other people laugh and feel amused. But let me conceal that part of me. He has no business being a part of my life, because I'm afraid if he is, people won't value me as much. So that's the software I had been operating with, that I programmed myself with when I was a young child. And I accordingly, the program also had a lot written in it. Not only am I not supposed to be that, it's not worthy of professional approval or personal approval, but I also had programmed like, who am I supposed to be? I'm supposed to be a serious businessman and another. it really had nothing to do with, yeah, JP, you are supposed to just be you. You don't have to know who you are. You have to, your job is to find it out and express it and not apologize for it. And it's a scary ride to figure out who you are, because it means you have to leave the safety of being who you think you're supposed to be in order to get approval from mom and dad, and then therefore projected to the world at large. So I had a shift where I had, all that said, essentially been betraying myself long enough, and therefore experienced enough of the pain of betraying myself that it wasn't worth it any longer. You know, the pain of avoiding oneself, essentially when that reaches the threshold of, you know, the fear of being yourself, it's like, okay, now the pain that I imagine would be there of being myself, that's now less than all this pain I've encountered of trying to avoid that pain that I imagine I'd experience if I were to be myself, all the pain of disapproval. So now it's not worth avoiding myself anymore. And I hate to say it, yet it's just simply true in my opinion. Pain is a great motivator. Man, I wish pleasure was a great motivator, but the pain of betraying myself was a great motivator to give myself more permission to be me, which really means unapologetically explore and discover and search for who is the real me, and let myself express that along the way. So that was a big shift inside that had a very correlated symptomatic expression on the outside of, now I let myself do comedic videos.
Well, it's a beautiful reflection. And a lot of people who follow our show regularly, they're all very in tune with their own creations and how they create in their lives, and how their thoughts and beliefs and all of that play a big part. But I think one of the things that most people, in my perception, find attractive about not just the comedy and not just what you share, because even when you're being funny, you're still sharing very profound information. You're still showing people what can be and what you can do if you release and if you go forward and act on things in your own benefit. But one of the greatest excitements a lot of people see is people who see how well you're doing in the spiritual community, with all the people who look at your videos, all the people who are on your Facebook page. Even though, you know, I understand it's not fair to equate that with the greatness of something, a lot of people see that and see that as a reflection that you're doing well in that community. So it excites people. There's a lot of people I found who try to work in the spiritual community or the metaphysical, new age, whatever community, and they put all their energy and time and efforts into it, and they just don't feel like they can grow in it. They don't feel like, you know, hey, I've got 200 people who follow my work and I can't afford to pay my bills. And that's something I hear a lot of people talk about. So to see that really excites people, I think, too. Now, I want to jump off track just for a second, and I want to ask you about your journey. If you look at your life, how did you get to having these beliefs, spirituality beliefs, the ideas of all of the teachings that you do?
Well, I was just fully enlightened sitting under a tree one day when a squirrel came up and bit me and gave me rabies. That's the same thing as enlightenment, isn't it? It's, you know, I would dare say a lot of hard-ass work. And grace as well. I'm not going to pretend like the path of, you know, true spirituality, whatever true spirituality is, but the path of stepping into oneself, I'm not going to pretend like it's just all hard work, even though it's a lot of hard work, meaningful work. But there's a lot of grace along the way to encounter. So with that said, I think it's when I was about 20 years old. I'm 35 at this point, so about 15 years ago. I was very inspired by a man I looked up to look into the spiritual realms. He suggested I read the book Conversations with God. In that book, it was just like reading a part of my mind that I had never been in touch with before. It's kind of like, and I'm guessing a lot of the listeners have had the experience of you're reading something and you're like, I've always believed this. I just didn't know I had this belief. But it's like, it's this feeling, it's this beautiful experience of it being simultaneously new, but like anciently familiar. It's just amazing. So when I was reading this book, Conversations with God by Neil Donald Walsh, book one, it was just like really going home. It was thrilling, the newness, and so just returning home, the familiar part. And that book, my experience of the book, really, it changed me. It's like I woke up out of a trance. It's like I felt much more actively engaged with life. I felt like I was now beginning to dance with the mystery of life rather than just having the experience that life is what I see, smell, hear, taste, and think. Like, holy cow, that's a horrible life sentence. So that book definitely opened me up. And not too long after that, I guess probably, not too long after that, I connected with, I'll call him a man. I kind of think he's an angel inside of a human body. I became a mentor. He's still a great friend. His name's John McMullen, runs an organization in Columbus, Ohio called Journeys to Wisdom. But this guy is the real deal. He's intuitive beyond belief. So I was seeing him do things that intrigued me, scared me, blew my mind. I was feeling differences in my life. And, as I'm experiencing his magic, feeling his magic, getting impacted by it, and then learning his magic to, apply to other people, work with clients myself. That was beyond life-changing. So, I'm learning from him in a very experiential way. So I absolutely have to bow down in great gratitude that this man, John McMullen, I really learned from him how to relate to myself. I really learned from him how to stop looking for information and start feeling for the wisdom that flows through us. Before that, I would be like, okay, if someone's got a question, let me go through the encyclopedia catalog of other people's information that has been validated. And it's kind of like, in other words, I'm just useless. I'm just a robot here meant to regurgitate the right answer. But no, getting in touch with, I think, the wisdom, the energy, the spirit that flows through all of us and therefore connects us all to each other, that has been amazing and life-changing. And essentially, one of the things very specific that comes to my mind right now that I learned from John, and if I pretend like I'm somehow still coherent with your wonderful question about like how did I come to find my beliefs and practices, a lot of the things, my beliefs, my philosophies, I don't know what they are until I hear them come out of my mouth. I've been very fortunate to be able to have the chance to, quote unquote, teach a lot of people along the way through taking classes, clients. And I think we all know the trick. When you're teaching people, you are truly the student. This person shows up in our lives, maybe as the client, joke's on them. So they're playing the role of a client because they're just here to bring us a gift. They might ask us questions. And I think the real deal is, if we allow ourselves to go beyond our mind and therefore really channel some kind of higher consciousness and then speak it, then our job is to become a student and pay attention to what the hell comes out of our mouth. So I think that's really how we learn about what our philosophies are in any given moment. And of course they can change. I hope they do, because I think we become more capable of bringing in a higher vibration of consciousness. So being able to be in the position of a teacher, which is really the student, so that I can hear myself honestly talk a lot and then pay attention to what comes out of my mouth, it really is a great gift. And I do think one of the most intimate gifts we can give a friend, a family member, a client, is ask them a question. Sometimes I take for granted how often I'm asked questions. I mean, you asked me a question 5 minutes ago. I'm still answering it because I'm right now in this curious, like feeling this curious vibe. Like, wow, thank you, Rob, for asking me that question, because I didn't know what the hell the answer was until you gave me the gift of an open door to invite this stream of consciousness to come in for me to pay attention to. So it's kind of like, please, I hope everybody's ignoring me at this point, paying attention to your version of, your answer to this question. I'm just like fascinated. What a gift you've given me of being able to answer this question.
Well, it's in that way. It's channeling, just like you said. You're channeling that higher consciousness, and as you could tell by the announcements, this show is huge on channeling. I channel, my fiance channels. A lot of our
we're all
people,
a bunch of weirdos.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, it amazed me personally that the Walsh book, The Conversations with God, was one of the first that you picked up. After that, have you had the opportunity to go in and check out other channeling? Is that something that you have fun with? Because, I mean, by all means, that could be one of the easiest things to make videos of comedy about, channeling.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I have so much respect for the humbleness and surrender it takes to channel. And for someone to call themselves a channeler, I think it means they've done a lot of work of surrender, humbleness, and vulnerability. I think, what is channeled is something significantly significant. It's a spectrum of the infinite. I mean, talk about incomprehensible. So to bring into this dimension something that's beyond significant, in my opinion, requires that our human ego experience a sense of I am insignificant. I, lowercase I, our delusional sense of who we are. Our ego, at least my ego, it wants to be significant. It wants to be the source. But when we compare our ego to the infinite, our ego is going to feel pretty insignificant every time. And that's a hell of a sacrifice a channeler makes. It really is. So with that said, your question, have I checked out other channeled works? I would say sparingly. Compared to the vast array of work out there that's under the guise of, being channeled, barely scratched the surface. I mean, another book that I have loved that is very acknowledged as a channeled book is called The Impersonal Life. Have you by chance read that?
No, it's funny. I know very little about other channelers besides the ones that I bumped into while creating events and stuff like that. I think maybe that's why you haven't dug in, is because you've channeled so much for yourself that you found your own groove of resonance. But no, personally, I have not. I didn't even hear of Esther Hicks until about 2 years ago, and I've been channeling for like 7. So
man, I love that. I love how you haven't been motivated to check out other channelers. In the meaning I put on that, I don't mean to just project any truth onto you. That's why it's the meaning I put onto that, is that you have so much respect and connection to what comes through you that you don't need to be validated by how do other people do it. In a slightly similar way, and as you mentioned, I do think I have my version of that too, but in a slightly similar way, I don't read many books at all anymore. I used to read, when I was in my early 20s, mid 20s. I think as insecure as I was, that's how much I read. Let me own this information. Let me value other people's opinions. Let me value how other people get in touch with a higher consciousness. And then there's a gradual shift of like, oh yeah, I can do that. And it feels more authentic to me when I read the book of life through my lens. And now anymore when I read, in fact, I don't remember the last time I read a quote unquote spiritual book. I think they're great. Yet I really enjoy experiencing the flow of consciousness through me. Anymore when I read books, it's oftentimes like about other people's lives, maybe autobiographies, because I'm curious about the little nuances of people's lives. I don't know why I'm curious, but anyway,
it's beautiful. I have the same curiosities. It's wonderful to see, again, a reflection of something different and stated different and expressed different that has so many similarities. And just like you said, just this conversation tonight, a bunch of people at home are sitting there going, wow, that's exactly how it works for me or how it doesn't work for me. So it's always a beautiful game of give and take, and with thought and consciousness too. So I appreciate the fact that you are giving out those expressions through the multiple facets of work that you do. What is your favorite thing to do out of all the things that you do and share publicly? What's your favorite dimension of it?
Man, I'm going to give you a watered down answer to start with. It won't be exciting, which it's almost like whatever I'm doing in the moment is my favorite. And I don't mean to sound ultra spiritual, like, damn, Rob, I'm so damn present that just whatever I'm doing, I'm tuned into. But when I look at what I do, it's like I've got a book coming out in March, shameless self-promotion. This is a unedited copy or uncorrected proof. But nonetheless, whether it's, so what the hell? Okay, JP, one thought at a time. So there's such a variety of things that I do. I think they all point to up the same mountain, but from many different angles. So, okay, book writing, making videos, one-on-one work with clients, speaking at events, performing at events, leading a retreat. So there's such a variety that I find great pleasure and freshness with kind of like whatever I'm doing in the moment. So it's like if I'm writing a video script, like, man, I'm all in it. And that's like the most intriguing thing in the world to me. And then, later in that, that morning when I'm working with clients, it's like, connecting with this person, like, how in the hell would anything be better than this? So yeah, and I don't know if that just means I'm so gullible that I trick myself into being intensely amused with whatever I'm doing in the moment. But I will say this. So that's the diluted down answer. I mean, what a cop-out answer. Whatever I'm doing is my favorite. But if I was to get a little bit polarized for a second, I'm going through a phase where the creative muse is really dancing with me a lot. So what I would, and yes, I know anything we do is creative, but I would say what I identify as my creative work, which is the videos, is very, it's just, and it's newer to me. That might be a part of it. But if I had to pick something that's at least slightly more intriguing to me than the rest, it would be the videos. And a new dimension of that. It's probably not worth me talking about at this point, but I'll talk about it anyway because it's not materialized yet. But there's a TV show that I've signed on with a production company. We'll be developing around my character, and no guarantees it'll get picked up by a network. However, it's our intention for it to be picked up. And in the work that we're doing on that, it's even a new version of creativity that doesn't happen with videos, because the videos, it's all me, and now I'm this source of creativity, my character, now starting to work at least in one dimension with like a team around that and developing. It's like, wow, now it's like not just a whole in and of myself, but now I'm a part of an even bigger whole with the TV project. So the creativity has me really, really intrigued. The book writing, I actually finished writing the book, at least the first draft, almost a year ago. Book publishing is slow compared to, like, I film a video over the weekend and it's published on Monday. But there was a well of creativity with the book writing that is similar, but also some veins of it that are just different than like video script writing. So I'm also itching for, it's the next book project, and we're already talking about that. So long story short, I think I'd lean towards creativity right now is my favorite. And I will say, like, I've just looked at this through the complete lens of my own selfish inner fulfillment. But I would also say that something, and I don't want to discount that selfishness, like, yeah, I'm a selfish bastard. But above and beyond that, I think there's a satiation maybe in my spirit that right now the creative work, it's touching a lot of lives. It really is. And that is very purposeful to me. The heart and soul of anything I do professionally is geared around helping people help themselves. So it's very meaningful to me that the creativity, yes, it's tickling my creative centers. It's a beautiful dance with the creative muse and my intimate relationship there with my creativity, and it's touching a lot of lives. And that's very humbling and feels pretty darn purposeful too.
Absolutely, and to hear that possibility of the show, a probability right around the corner of that coming to fruition excites me. My partner Kalina and I were talking while we were sitting through and watching a few of your videos in the last couple weeks, and she had made a comment like, "Man, this guy needs his own show. It would be amazing." So we'll definitely watch.
But good, we've got at least 2 viewers. That's good. But yeah, thank you for those kind words, brother.
Oh, well, it's amazing. I really enjoy you as a person and you inside of your connection and your flow of energy to create. So it's very beautiful creation and a very beautiful and exciting thing to think about coming. Now, some of these retreats that you're going on, some of these things, what do you do at a retreat? Because I've seen your videos before, even the comedic ones and also the spiritual teaching ones where you take a more serious approach, but I haven't seen any footage from the retreats or anything like that. What do you guys do there when you're there?
It's a great question. So it's been about 1.5 years since I've ran a retreat of my own. And just a quick backstory on that. The reason why that is there's so much flooding into my life, like great things, opportunities, changes, that it has felt very appropriate to step back for a while. I don't know how long, from essentially organizing my own retreats, because there's a lot of, I mean, you organize events, there's a lot of time and energy that goes into that right now seems much more purposefully invested in fertilizing these other pursuits and changes that are happening. So present day, when I'm at a retreat, I'm a guest of another organizer, one of the facilitators that comes in. And so what do I do there? One, I'm there to hang out, grow, learn, and meet people, eat with people, chat with people, kind of like those little nuances of time when the retreat's not happening, we're on the break. Like, that's so meaningful to me. And then as far as like my active facilitation in retreats, a lot of them here recently do a portion of comedy relief, entertaining people. So I'll go in character and we'll have a session where I'm essentially doing stand-up and then doing some question and answers with people where I'm in character. So it's just playful. And then from there, I'll come out of character and have a heart-to-heart discussion with people, and at times engage people, into, one-on-one work, in front of the crowd. So yeah, it's it's weird because when I was running my own retreats, it's like, okay, we're coming for 4 or 5 days and I'm the only facilitator, and I'm, it's always a group thing that happens, yet I'm the facilitator. I'm kind of like essentially on the spot the whole time. And having gotten used to that, it is weird, enjoyable, and humbling to have like, okay, now it's a couple hours out of a several day long retreat where I'm the facilitator. And I find that in a way, learning how to take a step back, it is enjoyable. It's a way of honoring the gifts that other people bring to the table. It's a way of, also kind of taking a silent support realm, or a silent support role. So, yeah, I don't know if that answers the question. That's a little bit of my ramble about it.
Well, it was interesting to think. It sounds a lot like kind of the comedic version or the in-character version in some parts. And then when you go out of that, it almost sounds like something that was very similar to a video you just released recently, I believe in the last day or two, with Tony Robbins. You went to one of his large retreats. I know you shared some things on video about that, but again, that was the comedic energy and that. But what was your experience there? I know a lot of people in the spiritual community love Tony Robbins. A lot of people have a lot of opinions about Tony Robbins. I personally think he's a very straightforward guy, which anybody who can come from the sense of them, that is them, to anyone, I always appreciate and find a fondness for the real people, and it seems like you were having a blast there. So can you share a little bit about that experience?
For sure. First off, I was so honored that he would invite me to be his guest at his Unleash the Power Within event. For him to say, JP, I'm a fan of your videos. I was like, what the hell is the world's turned upside down? What the hell's going on? So even just being invited was significant to me. And, I along the way of my journey, I definitely know of Tony Robbins, listened to some of his stuff. So, and I had a good opinion of him. However, my premeditation is that, he's a motivational guy, but nothing super deep. Obviously, he's making a great impact with people, but nothing super deep, kind of some mental stuff. But man, I was beautifully surprised at the depth of this person. I mean, he doesn't call it this because, a lot of the mass people out there don't like the term, but he is doing just straight up spiritual work. I watch how this guy just channels, and I watch how, when he engages a person one-on-one, how he gets to the depth of their heart, oftentimes very fast. And so I was, impressed is a shallow word. Though I was impressed, so touched by the presence of this very powerful human. And, during the event and after the event, just a little bit of mental gymnastics, I start considering like, okay, why do some people have the opinion that, Tony Robbins, he's, whatever, he's just a motivational guy? I think his mastery is confusing because he is, my understanding is he's a billionaire. So he has mastered this energy flow called money. He's a master at knowing how to run businesses. He's a master at strategy, and he is a master at emotional healing. Now, typically, at least the way I think a lot of our minds work is like, okay, at most you can like master one of those. But when someone's got unspeakable depth, and I think there were like 5 areas I rattled off, we just assume is got to be a shallow version of it all. Here's this guy, he does healing with people, but he's the money guy. Or like, oh, I'm looking at him in the money realm, but he does healing with people, so he's just got a shallow perspective on money. He's not the real deal. But whatever the heck his astrological sign is, I have no idea. But he is a gift to humanity, and my experience in person with him, meeting him and experiencing his vibrations. So with that said, I did experience life-changing shifts inside of myself at his event, at least up until this point. I think it's been about 3 months ago, and I've experienced noticeable shifts inside of me. So long story short, that's my personal perspective of my experience of Tony Robbins. So it was a real treat to be at his event.
Well, that's amazing. I've heard a lot of people who have been around him, even interviews with other people who are friends with him in real life and spend large amount of times, that he's just an amazingly connected person to the heart. And I watched the Guru documentary, that I'm Not Your Guru.
I Am Not Your Guru. Yeah,
that was beautiful. You don't have to see a person to see if they're faking an emotion or not. All you have to do is kind of let your heart connect to that thing, to the experience, to the person, whatever it is. And in that moment, he was tearing up about the main motivator behind his desire to do this is to help people, because his life was rough, and if he could spare people pain, it almost makes me emotional talking about it. But when he went through that part on the documentary, it literally brought me to tears instantly, because I could feel the legitimacy behind his words and that emotion behind it. And I think anybody who does anything for other people because they want to help other people, just selfless energy in general is a brilliant thing. For me, I'm trying to get into that perspective more so and more so, that there's no really me helping you or you helping me. If we look at the fundamental level, that we both kind of the same different projection of consciousness, then if I do something good for you, I'm doing it good for myself, and bad to you, bad for myself type of thing. It's just I don't think I'm all the way there yet, because I still feel that ego portion and separation portion.
Sure.
What's one thing that you go through in your daily life right now that if you had to look at it, you say, this part of my life is still something that I work on a lot? Like for me, my physical weight, my health, that's my big one. That's the one I've struggled with. I did really well until my father passed last year. And then I went back into some old food habits, things like that, the not exercising. That's my hardship. If you're comfortable sharing some of that, I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, there's a bunch that comes to mind, and I'm happy to share multiple. Do you have 7 hours, Rob? Get this therapy session underway. A part, it boils down to relationships. The first one that wants to come out of my mouth is my relationship to work. Part of me wants to say I have workaholic tendencies, or I am a workaholic. And that's very confusing, because I have so much passion about the quote unquote work that I do. It doesn't even necessarily feel like work. So much passion about it, so much enjoyment from it. And there is a part of me that I think deep down inside feels so insignificant. And that part of me gets addicted to always doing my work, being productive, so that it can feel that temporary sense of significance. Like, okay, just productive day. Now I matter. Okay, 5 minutes has passed. I got to do more productivity. So there's an emptiness inside of me that I'm working on connecting with more directly and healing more directly, rather than just compensating through my work, which again, that's kind of confusing and almost like food. When you mention eating habits, you have to eat. And eating is part of how some of your we'll call it shadow dysfunction gets expressed. So it'd be easy if you just didn't need to eat, or I just didn't need to work, because it's so convenient for me to rationalize my dysfunctional workaholic with, yeah, I'm working right now and I'm working till whatever, 10 or 11 at night. And it's because I'm passionate about my work and I want to make a difference. And yeah, the problem with that is it's true, which makes it a very convenient cover up for the part of me that's, using my work as a hard shell over some kind of tenderness. And then, just the other dimension of relationships that I'd add to that is my love relationships, romantic relationships. Life is humbling me on that lesson. There's, I'm single right now. I have been for about 9 months. My most recent ex-girlfriend, her and I broke up about 9 months ago. We were in a 2.5-year long relationship. So there's definitely lessons about me that I am needing to explore more in terms of, in the learning environment of relationships, if that makes a little bit of sense.
Yeah, and that's well understood. Going through all of the things, it's nice to be able to be in the position you are, having that connection to yourself and that flow of energy. Also being equipped with all the information you've absorbed throughout the years and your practical understanding now of how to let it flow through you to gain access to new information. Oops, sorry about that. I just dropped my keyboard.
No problem.
That was brilliant.
Keyboards need to obey the laws of gravity sometimes too.
They do. I can't blame it too much. I'm one of the most clumsy people after 9 p.m. anyway, so I have no business running a radio show or a show after 9.
Well, this says we're off air, Rob. Did you make a mistake?
Oh yeah, I can see that now. All the people on YouTube. There's actually a lot of people on YouTube who are very happy to have you here tonight too.
Well, right on. And by the way, live viewers, thank you for tuning in and allowing myself and my lovely friend Rob to be a part of your evening or whatever time of the day it is in your neck of the woods. So thank you for joining us. I love being on with people.
I do too. This format is something we brought from a regular radio, like a blog talk radio. We came from there, and we had so many problems with that. And this gives such a personal energy because you get to see people talking in the comment section as it goes through, which is really nice. Where on blog talk, you can only hear them cursing you out when you unmute their line. But I can't remember what I was saying
again there.
I can't remember what I was saying, but I think I was getting to the fact, or to the hint, that because you and yourself have had the opportunity to reflect on a lot of things, those experiences for you are also teaching you a great deal of things and experiences. So for me, I try not to look at the food thing as a problem. It's only a really, really good teacher who's willing to help kick my ass for a little while until I get back in alignment with myself on that area.
Yeah, to me, I just learned a great lesson hearing how you phrase that. The lesson that I heard is essentially, sometimes the problem with our problems is that we think they're a problem. But I love how you reframe that. To me, it was a great token of self-empowerment of, it's not a food problem, it's a teacher. Yeah, to me, a problem implies we've got to solve it, we've got to change it. But to me, a teacher, it's more like we've got to learn from it. And which reminds me, that was completely sort of off topic. One of my favorite quotes that I kind of lost sight of for a couple of years, but it's become rekindled in my life. But the quote says, by the way, I totally don't know who said this, but someone at some point said this something. Life isn't a puzzle to be solved. It's not a question to be answered. It's a mystery to be experienced. And anything we call a challenge or a problem, it's like, yeah, it's a teacher to be experienced. And I think what a teacher ultimately does is they're the bringer of light. They're not here to teach us what we know, at least teach us what we consciously already know and have already learned. A teacher to me is a connection to the mystery, a connection from what we know to what we don't know. And I think the middleman is a teacher, and oftentimes that middleman is us and our own behaviors, thinking that get our attention.
I love that. That is beautifully put. It reframes a lot of experience for people who are going through that. And that's the one thing I was lucky enough to gain perspective from the guides that I work with in my channeling. Is they always say, when that experience comes into you in the ways of adversity or problems, it's there to remind you, hey, my belief systems, my way of life, my energy, is it really resonating with me enough to continue that pattern, or do I need to fix, change, or switch? So it's always a beautiful teacher. And I love the fact that so many people can now take this wonderful, crazy chat we have and maybe hopefully look at it in that way just a little bit, even if the perspective of change of just that idea alone can change so many people's lives. I know it changed mine, like black and white. Once I figured that part out, black and white, I mean, everything, and it still feels like a pain in the ass, or it still feels like a problem when you're going through it. But when you can breathe a little and step back, it's definitely a teacher.
I think that the teacher wouldn't be a very good teacher if it wasn't at least somewhat of a pain in the ass. I think when the teacher's teaching us the pleasant lessons, what we're really doing is re-experiencing something we're already familiar with, and the teacher's maybe not teaching us very much. But screw it, I like those times too.
Absolutely. I'm looking at the time we've got now. It's getting close to 10 Eastern time. I was wondering if you were okay with maybe getting a couple questions from our audience, because I think that would be great. For those of you who are listening, please, I'm just going to take a quick peek into the chat room, and anyone who wants to ask a question to JP, please, by all means, go ahead and send it in the chat. And I know there's a little delay, so I'll give it a minute. While we're waiting for those questions to come in, can you let us know about your website? You said you had a book coming out. Anything that you might be doing event-wise or anything else in the near future?
Yeah, the book, I would definitely invite people to be on the lookout for that. You can jump onto my website, awakenwithjp.com, and you can do the old thing, sign up for the free giveaway, which is really just a seduction into tricking you to get on my email list. But nonetheless, if you want to do that, you'll be notified when the book is available for pre-order, which it will be super soon. We'll be starting that campaign before too long. So yeah, there's a bunch of stuff, but I would invite people to keep their eye out for the book, and if you care to check out some hopefully beneficial videos or maybe entertaining at the very least, you can check out my YouTube channel, Awaken with JP. Beautiful, and definitely everybody who hasn't had a chance to check those out, please do. We're still okay. We got a question in here from a good friend, Rob McKenzie. He asked, how do you feel about the prospect of being world famous as a spiritual guy? Serious question. In parentheses, a serious question. I like that. World famous as a spiritual guy, I do consider myself very much a spiritual guy. And to me, that's what I would call honorable fame and recognition. Yes, gratifying to my beady little ego, there's that, and very honorable. If we can call what I've got at this point fame, I don't have anything to compare that to, but I just imagine if I became famous for something that felt shallow for me, whether it's I can, whatever, throw a ball further than other people, which maybe that's great depth of experience for some people. But when I just think about, like, yeah, becoming well recognized for something that feels shallow for me, I don't know about that. I don't know how that would feel, but I imagine it wouldn't necessarily be incredibly quenching for the inner thirst. But I would dare say, you know, my expressing my voice, my art, my message, if I pretend like I own it, that itself is very deeply satisfying, and the recognition for it adds a layer of satisfaction, codependent, but yeah. So I feel grateful to have recognition for something that feels like depth for me.
Beautiful, and thank you too for sharing that. We've got one question too from someone, and I believe they're speaking in the context of meditation and theogens, any of those things. Have you ever come in contact with what you felt was another being or an ultra being, extraterrestrial, higher dimensional, things of that nature?
Yeah, I won't say frequently, but yes, I have had experiences where it's like, I don't know how to explain this other than like it feels like there's another being here. Often, not often, but when it's happened, it's typically like in the middle of the night, and I'll wake up and I can feel a presence. And, uh, you know, it's a little bit beyond words, as I'm sure a lot of people might have a similar experience to if they've had their version of these occurrences. So, yeah, I find that I'm not very linguistically sophisticated around it. And I will add, like, what experiences, or I would say I'm curious about experiences I've had with other beings that I have just been completely unaware of and blind to. It's like I look at here in my office right now, and my senses tell me this room's empty, aside from me. And then another part of me is like, well, I wonder how empty it's not. Um, so, you know, I realize a lot of people have gifts of perceiving what's beyond the perceptibility of our five senses. I don't think being well tuned in that regard is one of my gifts. So, you know, there's someone else might be in this room and be like, yeah, JP, I see a lot of things. Well, my eyes don't work that way right now. So I exercise the muscle of curiosity, and so I wonder what other beings are around me. And honestly, I'm grateful for that curiosity. No idea what the answers are, but I'm curious about that.
Well, it's beautiful, and to have the open perception and even being able to feel that energy tells a lot about the openness to experience you have. And I think that's another reason that a lot of people can relate to you. Through your work, you've shared an openness about a lot of different things. A lot of the things that you say in your connection to those videos are things that a lot of people say and think in their inner mind, but won't say out loud in the spiritual community and in the community that we're at too. So it's a very beautiful, beautiful thing. One more question too I've got here. It asks, 1 second. Sorry, I lost it. Basically, out of all of your videos, out of all the comedy things that you've done, what is something that's the most funny that's actually happened to you in your real life or in your real experience?
Well, it's a good question. So much of what's in the videos is pretty directly from my real experience. So, you know, the first thing that comes to my mind, it was the first ultra spiritual video I did called How to Be Ultra Spiritual. There's, you know, in that I'm essentially giving the 10 things you need to do in order to be ultra spiritual. And one of them was, what was it, what I called in the video, competitive spirituality. And in it, I have a cutaway scene where I'm sitting on my front step. Neighbor walks by. I'm like, "Hey, Kevin," and then continues walking. Then I turn around and say to someone, "Do you see how unconscious that jerk was?" Man, how many times have I done that? Criticizing people based on how I judge their consciousness to be inferior to mine. How unconscious are they? Now I'm looking at like, how unconscious am I to think, they're so unconscious? So, man, I am so guilty of that. And I'd love to say like, hey, I did that in the video. I shine light on it, so I don't do it anymore. I maybe, hopefully, fingers crossed, do less of it. But I still do that, which is really, to me, it's a game of judging myself to be inferior, projecting it onto another person in compensation so that I can actually escape my inner insecurity, inner insignificance, temporarily feel superior to someone I'm judging to be inferior, which is just me projecting myself onto the other person. And I'm calling it spiritual. It's like, Jesus, God help us all if that's spiritual.
Yes, that's I've seen that occur many times. I myself been guilty of that, it's a very fun thing to help teach you. But I watched that video too. That was one of the ones I did, and I'm thinking about it. I'm a very visual person. I recall things visually a lot, so I'm thinking as you're talking about these videos you've done that I've seen it, and it just brings back the giggles again. So sorry about that, but
oh no, I appreciate you sharing your giggles.
I have one more question here too. This is from a dear friend of ours, Zion. She asks, JP, what would you advise to someone who is following their purpose but feels like giving up due to lack of support from friends, despite the hundreds of people who do support their work or do support them as a person?
Yeah, that's a great question. The first thing that comes to my mind is focus on what archetype are you essentially embodying when you're feeling that self-defeated sense of I'm not getting support from the close people to me that I want, maybe need their support, and I'm not getting it. So when you're in the place of your reality, your experience of not getting it, what archetype are you essentially embodying in that moment? Is it the martyr, the victim, the orphan? So many other archetypes, but what is most important, I think, is you identify that archetype. And why I would invite you to identify that archetype is it's awareness. It's awareness of, okay, here's the kind of the general blueprint of how I'm functioning relative to what I experience as my unsupportive friends. And let's just say it's the victim, like, oh, poor me, they're not supporting me, I'm all on my own, and it's me against the world with how okay, so there's the victim archetype. In my opinion, the fact that that's happening and reoccurring means it serves a part of you, even though it disserves the rest of you, and maybe it works against your purpose. There's a part of you that's served, or at least at one time in your life it was served. Thus, this part of you has been trained to go into the vibration, if you will, or the polarity of the victim archetype in this example. So I think in very practical terms, it's a realization of this is how part of me gets my emotional needs met, by being a victim, where I get to feel unsupported in my journey. And by the way, like, how much more perfect for the victim, I'm living my purpose and I'm unsupported. Whereas, like, if I'm not living my purpose and I'm unsupportive, like, I'm a victim, but it's not as much of a deal. But if it's my purpose that I'm not able to really accomplish as much because these people aren't supporting me, it really amps up the victimization. And there's a lesson here. What did you experience in your life that taught you to get your emotional needs met as a victim? Who was it with? In other words, what familiar relationship are you potentially replicating? And maybe also, what pain did you experience that drove you into the position of power of the victim? And to me, the victim is a position of power. The illusion is its powerlessness. The reality, in my opinion, is it's a sense of power through the polarity of powerlessness. And I would invite this self-exploration, not to any degree to shame yourself. Man, I'm being a victim. What the hell is wrong with me? No, you're just victimizing yourself for being a victim, but not out of shame, but out of pure understanding. Just like you mentioned earlier, Rob, be the student of this life experience. And John McMullen, the mentor I mentioned earlier, one of the things he taught in the very beginning, and man, I still hold it near and dear to my heart to this day, and I sure as hell wish it wasn't true. But I'm really thinking it is true, at least for me, that we always teach people how to treat us. I mean, that to me is the hallmark of radical self-responsibility. No, we're not consciously saying, hey, would you mind not supporting me? Now, we don't do that consciously, but at an unconscious level, and maybe even certainly, use the word certain so I can sound like I know what I'm talking about, but maybe very curiously at the soul level, what part of me asked them to treat me this way? And what also, at the same token, how am I perceiving them that's giving me the experience that I'm unsupported? So to me, there's a couple important realities to consider. That absolute reality of like, they may not be supporting you. That might be true. And if so, why am I teaching them to support me? Why is that a gift? Why do I need that? Tough questions, easy to ask. And they're a journey to consider. And then the other perspective here is, to me, it takes at least a big tablespoonful of humbleness for medicine before we can even consider it, which is, it's my perception I'm being unsupported. I don't know that I am being unsupported, but playing with this for a second, what is it about myself that might be causing me to distort my reality into perceiving that I'm unsupported? Why might that be benefiting a part of me? Obviously, a part of me suffers about it and feels unsupported, and it's painful, it's suffering, and maybe my progress is halted. And what if there's a part of me that benefits from it, hidden benefit, and therefore I use my co-creative powers at an unconscious level to distort the world and perceive I'm being unsupported? And of course, I have all 1,000 reasons that I can use to justify that it's true that I'm unsupported. But piercing through all those stories, the bottom line is, it's me perceiving that I'm unsupported. So I get to be curious about who's behind the perceiver, which is me. So that's what I would consider. I think I said a lot. There's probably, I said all that way faster than one could really authentically consider it. Yeah, that's what jumps out of my mind, is a little food for thought about what is honestly, I don't mean to trivialize any of this, what is honestly a very challenging situation for sure.
Sure. And that's when you're explaining those things, so many things click for me too. I wish I would have had my GIF file of the mind blown Eric Wareheim thing, because a few of those things click so hard within my own mind. Seeing certain examples of people I've co-created with in my life brought me a lot of insight. And the one thing that I think has a huge relevance is the person who is being perceived to do injustice against you or to be doing something negative to you. That's one thing my guide, Aridif, has always said when he's speaking about that, this cannot be known to you. And what that means is when you're driving down the street and someone pulls out in front of you and then they give you this evil look, a lot of people's first thought is, hey, that person is just rude, mean, they're judging me, they're looking at me horribly. But we never consider the idea this person could have just had a really bad traumatic experience happen 5 seconds before they shot us that look. It could be that person who is just very, very sad person altogether, and that's how she looks at everybody. All of those things can be, but we always assume the part of it that we want to perceive or that we project out there. So this can, there
the keyboard
fault number 2 for
keyboard
the night.
Down.
I'm just gonna quit and set it on my lap. But that part of us that wants to do that too is very, very it's very rough to deal with, and that's a part. It takes a long time to be honest with yourself and also be able to break it down and look through. So I love that answer so much for me to be able to reflect on too. And I know how far delayed it is because I hear Kalina laughing several seconds after I drop the keyboard, so I know about how far behind we are in our streaming too. I'm going to take one more question if that's all right with you.
Sure.
All right, beautiful. I've been saying one more, but we're having a great time, so I figure that'd be great. What is the key to having fun at work? When you're doing your work, what's that one key to make sure you're having fun?
Here's what comes up for me. Find the mystery in any given moment. And I don't know, for this lovely person, I don't know exactly what your work is. Whether it's I'm in a cubicle doing the same damn thing every day, or you're doing paintings, I don't know, but finding mystery. It's kind of like most of the time we have more fun when we're watching a movie that we don't know the ending to. Is because I think mystery is the inherent ingredient that makes us feel amused, and I think amusement is what makes us feel like we're having fun. When we go out with friends and have coffee or a drink or whatever, and we're having fun, we're having a great conversation, we realize this conversation is not scripted. We're actually experiencing the unfolding of a mystery. We don't know what we're going to say next. We don't know what the friend's going to say next. We don't know how the communication is just going to exponentiate itself. So I think mystery is most important. And that's easier said than done. I mean, it's very real for a lot of people. They're in a job with a lot of repetitive stuff. Maybe the computer's in front of them. Then what I would up the ante with is your challenge is to be creative with how you engage a mystery. And that might be you look over every once in a while to the person next to you and you give them a weird look in order to feel amused by how they react to you. One of the, an experience I've had with this, in 2006, I started teaching these 3-day-long holistic lifestyle and nutrition programs for an institute as an independent contractor. So I'd go in for 3 days to a given city, and there'd be a room full of people. And I'm speaking about great information that's inherently boring. I mean, it's really a little bit of a dilemma. Like, this is very valuable stuff. Hence, I feel purposeful, like delivering it to these people for like 10 hours a day, 3 days in a row. And, certainly after I was used to teaching that course, it was boring to me. So I found ways to amuse myself. And that was part of how I developed my particular edge of satirical comedy, where every once in a while I would say something completely off the wall, but I'd keep a straight face. I wouldn't laugh about it. I'd say whatever it was off the wall, and then I'd keep going with the regular information. And that would amuse the hell out of me, because I'd watch a third of the class get that I'm somehow joking. the other third of the class, like semi-terrified, like this guy, he's serious about that. He thinks we should eat tapeworms to lose weight. And then the middle third of the class absolutely confused how they should take it. And almost to a science, after, I don't know, I think I taught this class over 100 times over the 7 years I was with the Institute. So it became very predictable that the first half of the first day, people didn't know how to take me. But after lunch on the first day, then people would, on the whole, it would be figured out like, this guy's joking. But it was so amusing to me. And even once they figured out that I'm joking, even when I look like I'm not joking, it's still amusing to me to watch people process how I'm doing something off the wall. So that was my way of, like, in a relatively mundane situation, finding the awe of mystery. Nobody's going to do it for us. I think we have to be the ones to create it. And I don't think there's any environment where it's not possible. I think all there could be is an environment where we have yet to figure out how to be creative enough to find the awe of mystery so that we can have a sense of, I'm having fun.
Absolutely, and I can imagine you doing that. I'm cracking up. I'm glad I'm muted, otherwise I would have laughed over you the whole time, but I can see that. I think that mystery thing, though, it's a very pointed thing that anyone can do at any time with anything, and literally create a different experience. I worked in a factory before. I also worked doing daycare, so I had these two polar experiences. One where I'm doing literally the exact same thing, 12 hours, 16 hours in a day, and then 6 kids who, depending on their mood, mindset, or desire to do something, were completely different. So I found myself more easily able to adapt to the changing environments. But the thing where I was doing it over and over, it drove me crazy. So I see that, and that's beautiful. I personally love who you are as a person. I love the work that you do.
Brother.
Oh, it's amazing to me. You enhance the lives of other people. And I just want to let you know personally, we do our events which have channeling, and you're welcome to come to any of them that you want, whether they're online or live. We're going to be doing them next year live, probably twice next year. LA and then New York, or LA and Midwest somewhere. But you are welcome to join us at any time. I would love to spend some time with you just hanging out. You're the type of person I could do that with. So
well, thank you for that great invitation, and I would absolutely love for our paths to cross in person so we can hang together and probably even have some fun, I'd imagine.
A lot of fun. It's amazing that you're here tonight, and I appreciate that very much. Is there anything you want to share before we call the night with everybody? Any insight, any ideas that you want to share to kind of wrap everything up?
Just the idea of gratitude. I think we hear it talked about so much that it can be easy to write off and dismiss. Oh yeah, that simple thing. I got that. But I do believe gratitude is a powerful force of nature, just like the sunshine. Like, we've seen the damn sun every day of our life, and it is still powerful and necessary in our day to day. And I think gratitude is one of the suns. And so there's a part of me that feels gratitude, and renewing our relationship with gratitude is important. And I think I'm probably just doing a little preamble on gratitude because, in this moment I have a lot of gratitude for you, Rob, and not only having this beautiful platform where you share your offering with the world and help people become more connected, inspired, and informed, and you share your wisdom, but you inviting me on to be a part of your platform, I mean, that's definitely multiplies the gratitude by 2. So thank you for that. And you lovely viewers who have tuned in, Very grateful for your connection and your attention.
Well, it's the gratitude goes both ways. Very, very grateful to have you on. And for those of you who are watching, please go check out JP Sears, awakenwithjp.com. Go to the YouTube site, type in JP Sears. You'll see all the videos there. Amazing content from an amazing person with an amazing heart. Thank you again, brother, so much. And thank you for blessing us with your energy today.
Oh, you're welcome, Rob. Talk to you soon, brother.
Talk to you soon. And everyone out there, we will try to be back on the first Wednesday of the month for our regular question answer exchange with Treb and Aridif. For the etwhisper.com, go there, check everything out. If you're looking to do sessions, booking sessions, getting whatever you want from the site, we've got lots of digital downloads, video, audio, all that stuff. So please feel free to join us, etwhisper.com and metatroncenter.com. We love you guys. Thanks again. And thanks again, JP. We'll see you guys on the first Wednesday of next month.